It would seem that the new favorite pastime activity of liberal governments is that of limiting the freedom of the press. Because that's what the internet is nowadays. The press isn't just the corporations, the multi-billion-dollar entities and media conglomerates. It's also independent people like yourself who are on the internet and you're constantly being pushed out from this space. Whether it is by removing dislike buttons, whether it is by closing down comment sections, or having various TOS enforced by governments on companies like YouTube in order to prevent people from talking about various subjects. All of this comes at restricting what people are allowed to say and what people especially are allowed to think. And in Canada, this takes the form of the streaming bill, the online streaming bill. The Liberal government's online streaming bill, which has been the subject of fierce debate among members of Parliament, is now headed to the Senate. I remember 4 years ago when I was saying that, look, while it does sound cringe, an online Bill of Rights should happen. And I got met with a lot of opposition from allegedly anarcho-capitalists that were like, no, the government should not regulate private businesses. The government should not regulate private enterprises. You're crazy. You're a communist. I see. Well, the government, apparently, in some countries of the world that are more left-leaning, are regulating the living shit out of the online platforms. Boy, I'm sure glad that there's no Bill of Rights to prevent this from happening. Now, obviously, it wouldn't happen in Canada, because Canada is a lot different in culture than the United States, and the Bill of Rights, they would definitely have done this regardless. But like, my point stands. It's like, look, when your guy is in charge, like the politician that you voted for and whose values you support, when he doesn't regulate something, eventually the other guy that you don't vote for and you don't support is going to do the regulation. Simple as. The Liberal government online streaming bill, which has been subject to fierce debate among members of the Parliament, is now headed to the Senate. Bill C-11 passed third reading in the House of Commons with a vote of 208 to 117. The Conservatives opposing the proposed legislation. The bill would update Broadcasting Act and bring streaming platforms such as Netflix and Amazon Prime within the regulatory regime. It's interesting how when right-wingers were upset about the Netflix movie Cooties, and they were saying that it shouldn't be on the platform, they were called fascists. Like, oh, so you don't want free speech. Oh, you're a horrible bigot. No one is calling the Canadian government fascistic now for trying to regulate Netflix and Amazon Prime. By the way, if you're an American, you are so freaking lucky, okay? Like, this is the normal. Like, governments telling people what they are and aren't allowed to watch is the normal. The European Union does the same. Canada is doing this. China is doing this. The United States is one of the few countries where you have the most freedom when it comes to your freedom to seek information and your freedom to educate yourself. Yeah, this common thing like educate yourself, bigot, is going to be an American saying, because in other countries you won't be allowed to educate yourselves. Like, I want to educate myself, but the books aren't available. Critics of the bill say that the currently worded, it could also apply to amateur video user-generated content posted on YouTube. It would make platforms like YouTube and Spotify to promote Canadian music artists by law. So this would probably have two effects. Number one, let's say you have someone popular like Joe Rogan, and all of a sudden he's buried under a list of literally who's. Like, no one wants to watch them, but the algorithm keeps pushing them up because they're legally obligated to push up these artists. I mean, these artists would be up if they were popular. Doesn't that make sense? I know, I have this extremist view that things are better when they're grassroots, when the average people get to vote with their views on who should be popular and who shouldn't. But I guess that's not a very easy to control system, is it? Because then you get bizarre people being at the top, like Joe Rogan. But with that out of the way, this is also a way for the government to control the message. I mean, we've seen in recent years that the message is very important. So they can just pay these bloggers and influencers to push the message. And if you're an influencer, you have two choices. Either you take the money and you push the message, or you don't take the money and you risk getting the platform. And by the message, I mean whatever the party line wants. Because at this point, as we can see, it's only one political party that's in favor of this, right? So if they have, let's say, a protest, and they don't like the protesters, let's say they're protesting for workers' rights. And the people in power go like, no, they're a bunch of racist bigots, we're not even going to talk to them. And then the bloggers and the artists and the musicians, they push the message. Oh, yes, those protesters, evil, evil people. Evil. Now, what I do find interesting is the reaction of Dr. Jordan Peterson, who has been severely radicalized during the last couple of months. And by the way, I would like to ask that you don't contact any of the people that we're criticizing here. I don't know who these people are. It's just a public Twitter platform, and this is what's happening within the last hour, all right? So I'm not cherry-picking tweets. I'm looking at them live, just like you are. So he's like, touch my YouTube channel and see what happens. And I find it interesting that almost every single left-leaning person that responded to this assumed that Jordan Peterson is going to do violence. Like, if this was Arnold Schwarzenegger in his prime, I would get the concern. But Jordan Peterson is an elderly fellow that suffered from various health conditions. I don't view him as Rambo. I don't think he's a hardened career criminal. I think he just threatens legal repercussions. Like, he's going to sue the government. He's going to cause a stink about it. He's going to cause an international uproar. He's going to do anything available to him in order to fight this legally. That's what I thought. But again, when you look at this, you see that a lot of people are assuming that, oh, so he's going to do violence. And I'm thinking, like, do they actually believe this, or is this what they want people to think? Because if he was to propose violence, then he would be banned by TOS, right? He would have been pushed off Twitter. His career would be over. He would probably have a visit from the Secret Service. And I think, like, that's what people want, right? Like, they want him to be persecuted, and they're trying to imply things which he did not say. Of course, you know, if he's going to say something that incites to violence, then I'll change my mind. But up till this point, there's no evidence to believe, to have the uncharitable interpretation that he's going to do anything else besides talking and seeking legal action. Of course, there's also people that are saying that he promised to leave Twitter. Oh, wait, more bullshit from Dr. Peterson. How many times didn't people say they will do something and didn't do it? Like, how many times did people say, oh, yes, I'm going to lose weight and didn't do it? How many times did people say, oh, I'm going to quit smoking and didn't do it? I don't really think that this is like, aha, you are a liar and a thief, Mr. Peterson. It's just that he's weak-willed. And honestly, I can understand his situation. I mean, my government actually did ban the freedom of the press back when we had communism. It's not good. It's not good. They will nuke your channel eventually. The more you tell the truth, the more pressure they will be to cancel you. It's kind of hard because Jordan Peterson is so huge. But yeah, if you're a small Canadian content creator and you go against the message, I'm watching you, short fat otaku, this might actually be bad for your business. It might actually put your channel in jeopardy. Other people, I'm leaving Twitter. I suspect there will be some sort of parallel internet service. Musk's Starlink. Yeah, but they can also regulate that. Again, people just don't understand that when the government puts their mind to it, they find solutions. So, for example, here in my country, it was illegal to listen to Radio Free Europe. This was a European radio station which broadcasted into Romania, and the Communist Party didn't like it because it went against the message. You faced a fine, or you faced worse, like going to jail, if you actually were caught listening to Radio Free Europe. If your neighbor ratted on you that you listened to it, if you happened to listen to it in public or anything like that, yeah, you would, I mean, they can do it. Why not? At this point, why not? What's stopping them? What exactly is stopping them? The message is important, and the message has to be reached, especially in a time where the economy is taking a downturn and when inflation is high and when the seats of the people in power is at its weakest. And the only thing that people in power fear is the fact that they can lose their seats. They don't want that, so they have to control the message. This is one way that they can do it. This is why the opposition isn't for controlling the message, because the opposition benefits from people wanting change. The people in power, they don't want change, so they need the message. Let me know what you guys think, though, and I'll see you in the comment section. Take care.